which is the worst single decision in history ever made by a person. How about the guy who bought 20,000 Albanian slaves, brought them to Cairo, trained them to be the greatest warriors of their time, and then got overthrown by said slave warriors because they were so well trained? Well, the decision of Ulugh, the governor of the Khwarezmian city of Attribution, to attack Genghis Khan's trade caravan was pretty bad. Khan was famous as a ruthless warlord, not the sort of guy you want to piss off. But maybe they could have got away with it. Genghis sent 3 ambassadors to negotiate a settlement. Which is when Muhammad II, the Shah of Khwarezm, made the really bad decision to kill one of these ambassadors and send the other 2 back without their beards as a sign of humiliation. Genghis Khan was so enraged he assembled an army and destroyed the Khwarezmian Empire. Wiped out every town they had. He even rerouted a river to wipe out the village where the Shah was born, wiping it off the map. By 1120 there wasn't much of anything left. So, both Ulugh or Muhammad II of Khwarezm qualify. Take your pick. Alan Savory, the ecologist who killed 40,000 elephants because it was believed that grazing was causing the desertification of Africa, only to find out later that elephants were essential to prevent desertification. In a thread filled with all sorts of villains and dumb fricases, this is the one dude who's making me disproportionately mad. Alright gentlemen, we've successfully fended off the Greeks for 10 years, our great city of Troy still stands. If we keep this up, surely they will realize the siege is fruitless and return home before long. Yo captain, there's this big ash wooden horse outside. Oh rad, bring it in. In the beginning the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and been widely regarded as a bad move. Eastman Kodak deciding not to go forward with their own newly invented digital cameras and instead sticking with film because it made them so much money at the time. Isn't the real shoot decision that the guy who invented the digital camera in 1975 at Kodak wanted to let Kodak patent it, and they said nah. Who's going to get into these things? Either the Great Leap Forward or the time I had gas station sushi. The Donner Party of 90 pioneers choosing to take a shortcut when heading west from Illinois to California in 1846. Said shortcut led to them getting trapped in the Sierra Nevada mountains and resorting to cannibalism. Maybe not the worst, but maybe Ronald Wayne. He was a co-founder of Apple along with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in 1976. Just 12 days after forming the company, he sold his shares for $800. He owned 10% of the company, which would be worth $80 billion today. The decision by the Scottish to invade England during Black Death must be up there. Mao Zedong's revolutionary campaign, the Great Leap Forward, resulting in millions of people starving to death. Mao's Great Leap down the staircase. Alcibiades was considered a traitor in Athens for leading his men to death. A traitor in Sparta because he got the queen to cheat on the king with him, and a traitor in Persia after including them in a war. Edit. So I did a little bit of info, and the switching signs and stealing statues DS are also true, plus he is a bisexual. Not like there is anything wrong with bisexuality. Yeah, but he got away with it and had fun. And in the end that's all that really matters. Not the worst in the world, but apparently my family owned a little town west of Kent, UK. My great-great-great-grandfather got plastered one night and gambled it all away. Radcliffe Line. The process to divide India and Pakistan boundary in 1947 was done hastily and without major considerations to local populace religion. Radcliffe was not a geography guy and majorly messed up the process. Millions died. Yahoo refused to buy Google for $1 million and later for $40 billion again. Edit. They refused $1 million, later offered $3 billion, and Google wanted $5 billion, so no deal. And Yahoo was offered $40 billion by Microsoft and they didn't want to sell, and later they sold for $4.6 billion. If they'd bought it for $1 million they would have destroyed it though. Whoever said the world's biggest MMO run escape should remove the wilderness and free trade? They threw a literal fortune down the drain just because they didn't understand their own product. Let's invade Russia must somewhere up the list. Twice. Except for Genghis Khan. He came from the east, cheater. I'm gonna do what's called a pro-gamer move. Maybe the worst business decision ever made was by Xerox with their Outlook computer. Xerox invented the graphical interface modern computers use. Desktop, folders, copy, paste, etc. They basically invented the modern computer in the 70s. But the problem was, the people in charge at the time were businessmen without any technical knowledge, so they didn't realize what they had. They did nothing with it and gave it away to universities and showed other companies. The famous story is that Steve Jobs saw this and within 5 minutes realized this was the way computers would work in the future. He copied it, Because Xerox didn't patent their invention and didn't do anything with it, and the rest is history. Xerox could have been Apple or Microsoft. Or both. They could have had a monopoly on the entire PC industry. Almost every company uses Windows in their offices. I think 80 or 90% of consumers uses Windows. That could have been Xerox. They had the tech maybe 10 years before anyone else. They could have been the most valuable company of all time, but they just gave it away. Now You See Me sequel not being called Now You Don't. Oh man, I've been saying this for ages. Jessica Biel not naming her child Badmo Timberlake. This guy. The guy who rejected Hitler's Art Academy application? The priest who chose to save 4-year-old Hitler from drowning? The soldier who found a wounded Hitler in World War I and decided to spare him? The time traveler who killed the wrong baby? Adele Hodler. Poor girl never stood a chance. Gavrilo Princip shooting Archduke Franz Ferdinand. On that day, a man acted upon his self-constructed vendetta against a non-tyrannical monarch, thinking the world would remember him as a symbol against foreign tyranny. A symbol of national sovereignty. A year later, 10 million men were dead. Well, having just watched Chernobyl, I was wondering how far down this thread I'd have to go to find Anatoly Dyatlov. You can't find him because he is a graphite roof. Stealing John Wick's car and killing his dog. 299 total kills and counting. Yeah, they will be regretting that for a long time, probably till 2077. My girlfriend just broke up with me, so I wanna say that one. Come on man. You have my support. Anatoly Dyatlov making sure with every step, that reactor 4 at Chernobyl exploded in 1986. This person is delusional, take him to the infirmary. Going up against a Sicilian when death is on the line. Murdoch double-crossing Rambo. Obviously. Henry Tandy who supposedly spared Adolf Hitler's life during the war. The story is set on September 28, 1918, while Tandy was serving with the 5th Duke of Wellington's regiment, and relates that a wary German soldier wandered into Tandy's line of fire. The enemy soldier was wounded and did not even attempt to raise his own rifle. Tandy chose not to shoot. The German soldier saw him lower his rifle and nodded his thanks before wandering off. That soldier is purported to have been Adolf Hitler. If you believe in the creation story, Eve single-handedly doomed all of humanity. Technically it was God who did it, considering he is supposedly omniscient and thus would have been fully capable of preventing that. 2005, Reddit was launched. Me, when, against my better judgment, I opened a kennel to let 2 angry pit bulls out. Their owner said, just let them out. They won't hurt you. Next thing I remember is being flown in a medical helicopter to the hospital, where I spent over 2 months and had 18 surgeries to repair the damage those dogs did. Yep. Worst single decision in history, for sure. Abraham Lincoln decided to attend a public theater while surrounded by enemies. Mao Zedong. Pest campaign. He basically told his nation to take pots and pans to kill all the sparrows. However, the ecosystem was disturbed and the locust population skyrocketed. Seeds. He thought that planting seeds 1 meter in the ground would result in greater roots and better harvest. He also thought that putting tons of seeds in one compact area would cause a better harvest. All the seeds died however. Around 30 million or so died from famine under his rule. Hey! Look at the other nations industrializing. Let's smelt all our metal to build better infrastructure. What? It creates pig iron which is super unstable and impure, therefore being ultimately useless? Oops. Mao. The more I read about Mao, the more baffled I am. He seems like not just an incompetent ruler, but just like a straight-up stupid man. My great-great-grandfather, a carpenter, did some work for a poor painter in the neighborhood. The painter had no money, so he offered either a bottle of wine or a painting. My great-great-grandfather chose the wine. The painter was Edward Munch, and the painting would have been worth millions upon millions today, or even just a few decades later, if translated to today's money. That one time Nintendo had a partnership with Sony to develop a CD-based console, but in the end changed their mind and kicked Sony out cause they decided to stick with cartridges. Sony then thought, screw this, we'll make our own console, with blackjack and hookers, and created the PlayStation as a frick towards Nintendo. This is edgy, but here you go, the decision of caste-based reservation system of India. We don't say the name. I am totally not proud of India country for this. 8 years ago when a guy bought 2 large pizzas for 10,000 bitcoins,